Welcome to Distant Whispers, where stories find you. This is a platform for people who love to read and write short stories. In particular, Distant Whispers deals with stories that have got strange and unexpected endings. So if you have stories in your own mind that you'd like us to narrate, please feel free to send them to the email address on the screen right now. And if you like, don't forget to share with as many people as possible, subscribe and like, and don't forget to press the bell for notifications as and when we update the channel. In this episode, we go down to the Eastern Cape and we join Daniel as he prepares to go onto the Otter Trail. Daniel had always prided himself on being an adventurer. He was a mountain climber, a skydiver, a deep-sea diver. The world to him was a vast terrain of challenges and awe, and he was always chasing its edges, pushing boundaries the way others chased comfort. So when his friends backed out of their planned Otter Trail hike along South Africa's Eastern Cape, citing work, children, and vague injuries, Daniel didn't hesitate to go alone. The Otter Trail was legendary. 5 days of hiking through lush forests, over rugged coastlines and across rivers, and beside the endless roar of the Indian Ocean. Its remoteness wasn't a deterrent, it was the appeal. He told himself he was seeking solitude, a reset of some sort. But the truth was, he was also running. From a breakup that had left his apartment feeling hollow, and from a job that had started to feel like a trap. He parked his rental at the Tsitsikamma trailhead just after dawn. The air was crisp, the sea below crashing rhythmically against the rocks. Birds called from the forest canopy overhead, and with his back snug and his boots securely laced, Daniel stepped into the trees. The first 2 days were everything he had hoped for. He passed ancient yellowwood trees, their trunks thick with age, roots like giant arthritic fingers clawing through the earth. The trail, narrow but well kept, wound past trickling streams and open to views so wide and wild they made his chest ache. He crossed paths with very few other hikers. Couples, some small groups, each of them absorbed in their own kind of journey. But their interactions were brief, merely nods and smiles, the occasional wave. He didn't mind. He wanted space. The faint roar of the ocean a lullaby in the distance. He slept like someone had unplugged him from the noise of the world. But on the third night, something changed. After a long day of scrambling over moss-slick rocks and pushing through tangled coastal bush, Daniel set up camp beside a shallow stream. The gentle sound of flowing water, mixed with the dull roar of the distant waves, it created a peaceful hum. He built a small fire, sat cross-legged beside it, and ate a simple meal of trail mix and dried biltong. Then he made himself a mug of hot Milo, the sweet chocolatey steam mingling with the scent of wood smoke and earth. He switched on his torch and unfolded the trail map, tracing the next day's route with a fingertip. The last 2 days were going to be brutal, especially the climb out of the gorge, but he felt strong, ready. Somewhere behind him a twig snapped. It was faint, barely a whisper beneath the murmur of the brook and the crackle of the fire, but enough to still him. He listened. Probably a buck or a rabbit, he told himself. Nothing to worry about. Still he turned, scanning the woods just beyond the firelight. The trees pressed close, dense and silent, their trunks disappearing into the shadow. The stars above had been swallowed by the trees, and nothing moved. He shook off the unease and turned back to his map. Then he heard the whisper. Go back. He froze. The words, or what he thought were words, were low and guttural, more breath than sound, as though spoken from the back of a dry throat. His skin prickled. He strained to hear more, wondering if he'd imagined it. Was it just the wind? Or the stream? Was it his tired mind playing tricks on him? He stood up slowly, torch in hand, and turned towards the darkened woods. Hello? He called out, his voice louder than intended. But there was no response, only the soft bubbling of the brook, the distant ocean, and the quiet pop of the fire. Just the wind, he muttered to himself and sat back down. But the moment he raised the cup to his lips again, the whisper returned, closer now, and unmistakably real. By midnight, Daniel hadn't slept at all. He sat rigidly near the fire's dying glow, every muscle tight, his eyes darting from tree to tree. The whispering came and went, always just out of reach. Shadows moved where there should be none. Strange sounds drifted in, the rustle of leaves, the low snap of branches, the occasional distant thud, and once again, a giggle, high-pitched and childlike. Daniel gripped his torch like a weapon and swept it through the darkness. "Who's there?" he barked, his voice cracking. But there was no answer. Then something dropped behind him with a soft thud. He spun around, his heart hammering. A carving of some sort lay in the dirt just beyond the fire. It was small and wooden, humanoid, but distorted. One of its arms twisted backward unnaturally. Its head was too large and its face was carved into a grin so wide it seemed to split the figure in half. A cold shiver crept down Daniel's spine. He didn't want to touch it. He didn't even want to look at it. But something in him, some sort of primal defiance, rose up. He kicked the figure into the embers. Flames licked and cooled around it, charring the crude grin. As it burned, the whispering around him changed, rising into laughter. Not joyful, not even human. It was simply high and wild and mocking. Daniel didn't wait for sunrise. He packed up before dawn, ignored breakfast and left camp without a backward glance. He walked fast and hard, barely pausing for water. His torch stayed in his hand even after daylight returned. Not just a light anymore, but as a weapon. He walked straight through dusk and into full dark. The trail narrowed, becoming uneven. He stumbled often, catching himself on the roots and scraping his knees on unseen rocks. His legs ached, his shoulders burned. The air had a strange heaviness to it now, like the forest was pressing inward. The whispers returned now, constant. They buzzed in his ears like insects, sometimes clear, sometimes unintelligible, always close. "I'm just passing through," he whispered hoarsely to anyone or anything that might be listening. "I don't mean any harm." Something giggled in the trees behind him. He stopped, his breath hitched. His body screamed for rest, but he pushed on. He caught glimpses of movement, pale faces vanishing behind trunks, the flash of something metallic reflecting the beam of his torch. Once he thought he saw eyes, dozens of them, watching. Then, just before midnight, he found it. Another carving. This one larger and placed in the middle of the path so he could not miss it. Its limbs also were jagged, its face twisted into a silent scream. Hollow eyes stared up at him as though waiting for a reaction. But Daniel didn't stop. He stepped over it and kept walking. On the final day, he barely noticed the landscape anymore. The ocean was still there, somewhere to his left, and the birds still called from above. But the world had become muted, like he was moving through a dream. He hadn't eaten and his water supply was nearly finished. He moved on with sheer willpower alone, focused only on one thing: getting out. As the sky began to pale with early dawn, he topped a ridge and the view opened up suddenly. Jagged coastline, deep green forest, and the endless churn of the Indian Ocean far below. The trail ahead curved along the cliffs toward the trailhead. Safety, civilization, finally an end. Daniel dropped to his knees, not in awe, but in exhaustion. Even here in the open, with the sun rising behind him, he knew he wasn't alone. He felt them before he heard them, the weight of their eyes watching and waiting. He turned slowly. Nothing but trees. Then the wind shifted and the whispers returned. This time they came in a chorus, overlapping voices, layered and taunting. "See you soon." Daniel ran. He didn't stop until he reached the trailhead where a group of rangers stood chatting beneath a wooden shelter. They looked up as he stumbled towards them, his clothes torn, his face streaked with dirt and sweat, his eyes wide with something close to madness. They rushed to him. He told them everything. He expected disbelief, maybe a smirk or two, maybe even a suggestion to take a rest and hydrate. But instead the rangers exchanged quiet glances. An older one stepped forward, his face weathered, but his eyes calm. "You're not the first," he said softly. The ranger explained in cautious, clipped tones that the trail passed near land claimed by old settler families, people who had lived out here for generations, forgotten by the world, hardened by the wilderness, fiercely private. There were rumors, of course, about strange sightings, about hikers who veered off the trail and didn't come back, about old ways that had never died. "They don't take kindly to outsiders," the ranger added. "Some of us know to avoid certain areas. We patrol close, but we don't interfere." Daniel stared at him. "Why didn't anybody warn me?" The ranger met his eyes, his voice almost a whisper. "Because most people don't see them. They just feel them." Daniel didn't hesitate another minute. He drove straight to the airport, dropped off his rental, caught the first flight home, and never looked back. He doesn't hike anymore. Not alone, certainly. Not in forests. Not where the air is too still and the silence feels wrong. And sometimes, late at night when the wind rattles the branches outside his apartment window, he swears he hears it again. The whisper, soft and feral, "Go back." If you enjoyed this episode of Distant Whispers, where stories find you, please be sure to like, share with as many people as possible, and subscribe. And don't forget to press the notification bell so you get notified every time we update content on this channel. For now, listen out for the whispers.